Hello everyone, it's Maddie here. So this week's episode is going to be a little bit different. Mo is not going to be here today because, well, she got COVID. Well, we don't know if she has COVID, but she's quarantining because everyone else in her family has COVID. Thanksgiving break was not a great experience apparently. So since I have all the audio equipment, we decided that I would just do a solo episode this time and just kind of talk about something I've been interested in a while. So I hope you guys enjoy. Alrighty guys, Maddie here again, and welcome to Binger's Anime Edition, a podcast where we talk about different or different, just anime in general with our fellow weebs out there. So, thank you guys for joining in once again. It's just going to be a little me by myself today. So, for a while, I've been very interested in a specific fandom and a theory that I've been really interested in a while. I think we've hit on it before in the podcast, but I have been very interested in the UA Traitor for My Hero Academia. I don't know why. I'm not a huge fan of My Hero, but the UA Traitor has really fascinated me, and 2 years ago, I massively deep dived into who is the UA Traitor, and I got obsessed, and it was not healthy. But, since we have to do a solo episode, I might as well do it, right? So, here we go. Forgive me, this is going to be weird because I'm just talking to myself the whole time, and I guess I'll just go for it. You guys don't get any interesting stories this week because it's not exactly fun to just talk to nothingness about my life. Yeah. I normally would say something here, but she's not here right now, which is fine. I guess I'm just gonna be lonely this time. But yeah, so, UA Traitor for My Hero Academia. But yeah, so a lot of people say that the mangaka has forgotten about the traitor for My Hero on multiple occasions and that he is no longer going to have a traitor in My Hero Academia. I personally don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure that rumor was also on a fake thread that no one has ever confirmed. Like, that was never said in a news article or anything. I have not been able to find anything that's credible. I think people were just hinting at that maybe Twice was the traitor somehow, but obviously that's not the case anymore. But I do think there is still a traitor in My Hero. Also, we usually try to keep this podcast where it's about anime only. But I will be covering a lot of it's going to be up to date in manga to, I think, chapter 250 or something like that, wherever it's recently been updated. I will be covering information from those chapters. Fair warning, there will be manga spoilers here if people are against that. But I do think that and the main reason why I want to do the UA Traitor theory now as a podcast episode is because I really do believe at the end of the war arc for the manga, the traitor will be revealed. I really do think by the end of this year, beginning of next year, it will be revealed who the traitor is. Don't know quite yet how it's going to be. We all know that right now the manga is just in a crazy town, a lot of crazy things are happening, and Hiroshi is not holding back on any of his punches. Like, he is just dropping bombshell after bombshell, fan theory after fan theory has been confirmed, and so here we go, so I'm going to go talk about it. Main reason why I think there's a UA traitor, I think it's pretty much been stated that there is a traitor because of the USJ incident. Somehow, the League of Villains got the plans of the USJ incident where All Might would be, and he would be secluded, so they were going to attack him. Getting that information with the break-in, someone had to give the information to the League of Villains, and then additionally, during the camp arc, they changed the location of where the camp was taking place, and still the League of Villains found them. Someone had to leak that information to them, either someone or somehow they tapped into something or something to find out what was happening. And also, the mall incident is a possible hinting at maybe who the traitor is. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, so those are the reasons why there's probably a traitor at UA. And most likely someone that is, because of those incidents, we already know that it's limited to either Class 1A, Class B, or 1B students, the teachers for both those students, or the faculty members involved in both incidents. So, Blood King, Aizawa, Present Mike, I think Midnight, and then Recovery Girl as well as Nezu would know where all these things took place, as well as all the students that were in the classes, and the Wild Wild Pussycats. I would say we can eliminate the Wild Wild Pussycats because there was no way for them to be involved in the USJ incident, as well as pretty much all of Class 1B. I think Monoma could be a possible traitor. There's a lot of theories that Monoma might be one, but his whole story is the idea that he is a villainous quirk. He looks like a villain, he acts like a villain, but he's trying to prove to the world that he's not a villain and that he's actually a hero, and that's why he's so condescending to everyone. So I really don't believe that Monoma could be the traitor. I mean, it's possible, and if there is a new development in his story, then yeah, sure, it would be. I think it could be interesting, but I do think that's kind of, I guess, more boring in terms of storytelling standpoint, that if he was ended up being the traitor, but we can't put it out of mind. It's a possibility. I really do not think that any of the faculty members are the traitor. I know there's a theory that President Mike might be the traitor, but in the war arc, he recently took out some major aspects of what was happening during that. I'm not going to try to spoil everything for what's going on for y'all, but I don't think he's the traitor because of that. Also, Aizawa, yeah, sure, he's aloof and he would be a great person to have for the League of Villains, but he cares too much about his students for put any of them in danger. Unlikely to be the traitor. It's a possibility Recovery Girl's the traitor, and maybe she is secretly conditioning the students to like feed her information because she keeps healing them. I've heard that mentioned or been mentioned around, which would be a very interesting take on Recovery Girl. But once again, I don't think there's enough proof for that to be the case. Once again, farther down the line, it could reveal it as something, but I doubt it. Also, President Nezu is literally monologuing in his office alone about who there might be a traitor. If he's the traitor, he wouldn't be monologuing in his head. That just doesn't make sense from a storytelling standpoint. So I don't think it's any of the teachers. Midnight doesn't really seem like someone to be a traitor, especially what just happened to her in the war arc. Blood King could be the traitor because he wants to make 1B look better, but it just, once he's revealed to be the traitor, it would just make his whole class look like crap. It just wouldn't make sense for his character either. That is why I eliminate all 1B and all the faculty members from being the traitor, just because from a story standpoint, I don't think it makes sense, and I think it would be way more impactful for us as readers, as well as the main characters of the show, if it's another fellow student from 1A. Alright, so other factors into why I'm just, kind of what my thought process is behind the traitor. So, once again, this is my opinion. This is not like fact. I am not like the UA Traitor, like, man, like, I don't know what's really going on. Like, I'm not the author of this manga, so I can't know for sure. I am going to be basing a lot of my theories off of, from a story standpoint, what would make the most sense, what would be the best, as well as just proof from, like, hints that were dropped in the manga as well as the anime. That is where I'm going to get most of it from, and that's why I don't really have any character in particular that I'm like, oh no, because I really like this character, it's not going to be, my highest ranking, most likely to be traitors, are some of my favorite characters in this anime. So, I won't have that bias for it. I think that whoever the traitor is, it will have to be a massive, like, emotional reveal. It will have to be a huge impact from a story standpoint. Either the traitor is someone that is very well liked by the class, and it is just a gut punch. A punch to the gut, is that the expression? I'm not sure. We'll go with it. But, like, that really takes it out of some of the main characters and makes huge story like more character development for our main characters like Deku, Bakugo, possibly Todoroki, like any of the main characters the story revolves around. Or however the League of Villains has been getting their information is in an extremely insane way, like an insane plot twist. So, like, someone is, I know there's a theory going around that maybe one of the students is an advanced Nomu. Like, what if one of the UA students is actually an advanced Nomu, kind of like Kagakurei is, that they don't even know that they're a Nomu, and they're just, a student in the class, no idea about what's going on, and then it's going to be revealed at the end of the war arc that one of the students has actually been one of the original advanced Nomu. That could be an extremely interesting storyline. Like, that could be a massive plot twist. In that case, one of the students wasn't intentionally betraying everyone. They didn't know what they were doing, but the way that Hiroshi would be talking about it, it's very, like, compelling. It's interesting, and everything else going right now in the war arc, it would not surprise me if this type of plot twist was thrown on us. Something like that. Something just absolutely insane plot twist that has been somewhat hinted somewhere else in the story, but it just takes in a different approach, and I think that could be an interesting way that he would go about revealing who the traitor is. Additionally, I believe that whoever the UA Traitor is, either willing or not, I personally think I would rather the story-wise, I'm going to assume for the sake of this podcast episode that the traitor is willingly being the traitor, because I think that's what a lot of us are thinking the traitor will be. I feel that will be the most interesting in terms of like just the gut punch, and I love that type of heart-wrenching action that would happen because of a traitor reveal. I think that betrayal is what is so sweet. In the case of a crazy plot twist, I'm not going to even try to theorize on that kind of stuff because I think I just want to be surprised by that. But trying to figure out who the traitor is in that betrayal, I think, will be more satisfying for this episode. So I really do believe that the traitor is willingly being the traitor, and I do think that once they got all moved to the dorms, the traitor has gone like pretty much quiet. Because kind of had to take a step back, and I also believe that whoever the traitor is starting to have second thoughts about being the traitor once they have moved into the dorms. There's a couple other traitors. I have theorized that there's different moments why they would have regretted being the traitor and the guilt would have been eating them up, and we'll talk about when we get to those characters. But I really do think the moving into the dorms was this turning point for the traitor, and then I really do think at the end of the war arc, for the villains to escape, the traitor will be revealed somehow, either as a way to surprise the heroes that have them Shigaraki captured, or as the traitor will pretty much set free one of the villains so they can get away. There's a lot of stuff that can happen, but I really have a feeling that it's coming up soon who the traitor is. So there's also a couple other theories out there about like possibilities for like how the traitor thing is working out. As I mentioned before, one of the students being an advanced Nomu, I find that a very compelling storyline. I think that could be possible. I mean, we knew Kurogiri was made from a couple different heroes, so it's a very big possibility that that could be happening. Also, the possibility of two traitors. I don't really like this theory as much as some of the others as just being one student, because unless there's a compelling story element why two individual students are pretty much betraying the class, it just feels like that's a lot of work from a writing standpoint to get rid of two students. It just doesn't feel that that is a very fluid way to go about it. I mean, it's possible. It is very possible that two students are working together. There's two students in particular that I have high up on the traitor list that could both be traitors. It's possible, but I'm really not compelled to believe that there's two traitors. I really do think there is one. Also, another theory that I've already mentioned is the idea that maybe there's been some sort of conditioning for a student, some sort of brainwashing quirk or something like that, similar to Shinso's. It's possible. Once again, I feel like this would be boring from a storytelling standpoint. I really do feel that that is kind of lazy from a story writing standpoint. If Hiroshia forgot about the traitor altogether, yeah, it's possible that he just kind of was like, yeah, like, sure, he didn't know that he was the traitor. Yeah, he was brainwashed or something. I don't think that's likely. This man plans out everything when he comes to writing this story. He has the ending planned already. Like, he knows what he's doing. He wouldn't just forget something like this. I really find that unlikely. But once again, it's possible. The biggest reason why I don't think there's some sort of brainwashing or conditioning, if there's some sort of condition, there would be more hints at it, like students going missing, which there are moments when students go missing and not really talking about it later, but there hasn't been hints at, like, where were you at during this time and stuff. So I find that unlucky. Also, Shinso has a brainwashing quirk. It wouldn't make sense to introduce another character with a similar quirk to that. It just... My Hero Academia does a pretty good job of having pretty individual quirks for each student that's pretty unique. Sure, there's some similarities between them and like maybe minor heroes, but nothing to this extent I don't feel would be a really good way to go about it. There's also a big theory that Shinso will actually reveal who the traitor is, and then he will replace the student in the class. It's possible. If the traitor is not revealed at the end of the war arc, which I really do feel the traitor will be revealed very soon, if they go back to UA I think then Shinso will reveal who the traitor is. After all the devastation, all the aftermath that's happened, I think things will calm down a little bit, and then Shinso will be like, "This is who's betrayed us. You caused all these problems." It will be a pretty big gut punch. I do think, regardless of who the traitor is and how they're revealed, I do think Shinso will replace that student in Class 1A. I don't see it that the student who betrayed the UA will be allowed to stay in the class. They will either leave, they could possibly be sent on a secret mission where they do want to do a redemption arc, and they're going to go undercover, very similar to what Hawks has done, but then again, they're doing the exact same thing twice. That doesn't seem likely. I really do think whoever the traitor is just going to betray 1A, betray all the heroes, and just become a villain. And we'll talk more specifically about who those most likely are to be those students. So now let's start breaking down the Class 1A students that are most likely or least likely to be the traitor. So I'm going to first list a couple characters I think is just very unlikely that they're the traitor, mostly because we have literally no backstory, very little monologue, very little anything about these characters, and it just would feel boring. And there's no other real reason why they would be the traitor. They have just been kind of there the whole time. Nothing's really happened. And those characters is like Soji. Yes, he's saved Bakugo during the camp arc, and he has some sort of voice, but it just feels like that would be a boring character to make the traitor. Koda also is one of those type of characters. He has little to nothing in terms of like any draw for us as readers to be interested in him being the villain. Like if he betrayed them, we would be like, it's just Koda, like we don't care about him. And there is a really popular, not necessarily popular, there is a theory out there that actually Koda is controlling Nezu and speaking to Nezu and having him do things, like having Nezu do stuff for him. I really don't find this likely, just because that would make his quirk so similar to Shinso's quirk. And like I mentioned earlier, I do not think that the mangaka would have two very similar quirks like that, so similar in such a close proximity of each other. It just seems redundant, and it'd be an interesting plot twist. Oh, that would be very interesting. That would be the type of plot twist for the story that would be really fascinating. If he went about it a different way, it's possible any of these characters could be a traitor if it had some sort, like if they were the secretly an advanced Nomu or something. But once again, we're going to assume that's not the case while breaking down these students. The next character I really find unlikely to be the traitor is Sato. Once again, just nothing. He just hasn't had nothing in terms of the story, as well as Sero, who, yes, helped Bakugo during the sports festival and was part of the team and the fandom, like he's part of the Baku squad. But in terms of canon, there's just not much for that character. There's not much meat behind the idea that he might be the traitor. Okay, so next are students that are very unlikely to be the traitor, but that's due to other reasons, not because they have had like literally no story time. So the first one is Mineta. And I think I can say for everyone, we all hate Mineta. Hate Mineta. Like he is one of the most hated characters in this anime. But he's comic relief. He's such a coward. I don't think that the traitor would be someone that's just comic relief. That just seems so shallow. There's just like no meat behind that. Find that very unlikely that Mineta would be the traitor. As much as we'd love for him to get kicked out of this. But he's probably not the traitor, sadly. Next is Jiro. Jiro originally for me was higher on this list of being maybe a traitor, but due to the the cultural festival arc and the backstory of how she chose to be a hero over being a musician, and she still gets joy out of making people happy playing music, I find it so unlikely that a character like that would be the UA traitor. It's just very, very unlikely that someone has pure intentions to be the traitor to the class willingly. Same with Ashido. She also is someone that, shown in Kirishima's flashbacks to his childhood, she honestly just wants to be here. She has the heart of a hero. She stood up against Gigantamakia in her flashback. She still has PTSD from him. I don't think she would be the hero for very similar reasons why Jiro wouldn't. Tokiyami wouldn't. His personality in terms of how his character is it's likely that he could be a villain, because especially in My Hero, quirks often align with character personalities and their motivations. Like Shigaraki is decay; he wants to crumble hero society. Kurogiri is a portal that like they get away from things, and he's literally just transportation. Dobby has flames that burn, and he represents the failures of hero society. And if you understand, you understand Dobby's whole massive hot, his whole thing. But it just quirks tend to relate to who the character's personality is. Like Ugaraka, she's hot, bubbly, and she's floaty, and that's what her quirk does. And it's just how the characters they tend to relate that way. And Tokuyami, yes, his quirk could imply that yeah, he has a dark side and he could be a villain secretly, but he was kidnapped at the camp arc, which sure, they could have kidnapped him for information, but it would have been so much safer to just, interact with him how they normally would. It just wouldn't make as much sense if they put themselves at such risk to be fighting Dark Shadow on a rampage. Don't find it likely that Tokuyami is the villain. Same with Ida. Ida is so straightforward and so about following the laws, following the rules, and he is just like, yes, like we have to do everything correctly, and he wants to do everything right. And then on top of that, when he got the motivation of anger and the right motivations to become quote unquote villainous and goes after Stain, he feels so guilty about it afterwards, and he doesn't even follow through with his original intentions of defeating Stain. So I really don't think Ida could handle the stress of being the UA Traitor, because that's another thing I didn't really mention. Whoever the UA Traitor is has to do a really good job of hiding how they are, how they feel. They have to really put a great face on. Try not to become emotionally attached to the other students in this class, and if they put on those fake friendships, they have to be able to bottle those feelings up and hide them and put them to the side. And there's a lot of students in this class that couldn't do that, especially the 15, 16-year-olds. This is not something that's easy for, and I know it's anime, like age doesn't mean much, especially apparently in My Hero Academia. The students at this school, they're kind of put through hell from day one, but that's fine. I'm just gonna say Ida can't emotionally handle it. Two other characters that always can't be the traitor is Bakugo and Todoroki. I mean, Bakugo's the main, he got kidnapped, he fought the heroes, he tried to escape, it just doesn't make sense that he would be the traitor as well. And sure, Todoroki could be the traitor if you wanted to go against, Endeavor and stuff, but, that whole storyline has kind of already been stolen by some of the other characters that have been recently revealed to be part of the Endeavor family. It wouldn't make sense for that to be done twice. There's also been no inclination that Todoroki is the traitor whatsoever. He is becoming friends with the students. He's embracing his quirk. It just, for his storyline, it wouldn't make sense for him to be the traitor. So now we have a couple students. It's possible due to a few different incidents that maybe make them the traitor. Different theories I've read, but I still think it's unlikely. And these characters are one, Deku. It's possible Deku is what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Word has escaped me. It will come to me shortly. Can't remember the word. That he does not realize that he is the traitor because of the dream link that has been revealed in the manga. That All for One and One for All have. It's possible that All for One is just hopping in every once in a while and seeing what's going on in Deku's life, and he's like, oh cool, they're over here. Let me tell the League of Villains to go to this spot. And it's possible that's happening. I don't think that's likely, because then Deku somehow has to isolate himself from all of his friends and all of his family, or they're gonna get hurt. He becomes when he's trying to become a beacon of hope, he's becoming a beacon of destruction, because he's literally telling All for One where he is at all times. That seems very unlikely, unless he just has to control his quirk more, which that just seems like lazy. Also, I don't know why All Might has never said anything about this, but that's a whole other thing we can talk about. I just don't think it's likely that Deku would be the traitor because of this. I think for his character development, it would be way more interesting if another student in the class became the traitor, and to see how he reacts to that. Next, Yaoyorozu. It's possible she's the traitor. She is a rich girl from society. She has low confidence. She also has the massive intelligence that pull this off. I saw a theory that maybe, her family's actually one of All for One's strongest supporters and they're funneling money to him. And it would be easy for her to get into the school without actually having to prove that she's heroic. She definitely at the beginning of the anime and the manga doesn't really show that she's much of a hero, more of just smart and high achieving and successful. But she also created a tracker and put it on a Nomu during the camp arc and then goes and tries to save Bakugo. Unless she experienced a massive amount of guilt for being put, like having that happen, I find that unlikely that she would be the traitor still, and especially now with how she took down Giganta Makia during the war arc, I really don't think she was. If she hadn't taken him down, like people were implying at first, I'd be like, that's a little sus, Momo. Like maybe you are actually the traitor, but it seems unlikely. I do think she's going to be the next leader of Hero Society. I think she'll be one of the top ranking heroes. I think that's where her story arc is going. Next, Sue. Sue is one of those characters that I love. I love Sue. Personally, one of my favorite characters. She is extremely straightforward and candid and honest. I don't think there's anything untruthful about this girl. She's super honest and genuine because she's blunt. But on the flip side, I think it's very possible that Sue realized that Hero Society is corrupt and that she decided that she would infiltrate 1A and then try to leak information to the League of Villains. It's possible that that's happening. I don't think that's very likely, mostly because Shigaraki literally tried killing her during the USJ incident. I mean, unless he just wanted to silence the traitor, I don't know why he would want to do that. It doesn't make sense. I just find it unlikely that Sue is the traitor. She's also one of the first characters to point out that Deku's quirk is so similar to one for All Mights. And sure, she's an observant character, but that kind of seems a little suspicious. That's why she's like on the possible but very not likely list. Like I really don't think any of these characters are the traitor. Finally, Ojiro. This is interesting because he almost is like the first group of students, very like just because there's no story. But the difference with Ojiro is he is portrayed as average in every aspect. Like there is nothing about him that is fascinating, that he's just boring. And it's possible that that's all front and he's pretending to be a boring character. It's shown that he's very observant that went during the sports festival arc, and that's good aspects of it as spy. It's possible that he is just faking it all, and that would be an interesting reveal. But once again, I feel like there's other students that are way more likely to be the traitor. He almost falls in the I don't have any story, so why would I be the traitor, type of students. So finally, there is 5 students there's 6 students I really do think could be the traitor. Nope, 5, sorry, I can't count. And these students all I can see being the traitor for other reasons or not. I will mention at the end who I really think the traitor is and who I want the traitor to be. I think in terms of story, once again, I really want the traitor to be someone that has a huge impact on the story. And that's why the first 2 students I really don't want to be the traitor, but there's enough like sus going on with them that they should be on this list. First, I'm going to talk about Aoyama. He's one of those characters that's like, we don't know. I really don't know. It goes back and forth in my mind. First off, he's missing during the USJ incident. He literally, when people like he brings up like, oh, where was I? And he's like, oh, it's a secret, and something outrageous, kind of like suspicious Aoyama, but okay, whatever. He also sends us super creepy cryptid messages and cheese. I thought that was just weird, but also his conversations with Deku are hinting at that he knows something. Like he knows something about Deku. And you can take that as he knows that he is All Might's, successor, and he knows something about One for All. But I don't know. It's just interesting. Like there's also like a theory that he doesn't actually have a quirk and that he just uses the belt and that for some reason he's in this class. It's possible that it's shown that he actually doesn't have a quirk and the only thing that's giving him his power is his belt, and then maybe he gets removed from class 1A and Shinso takes his spot. But I mean, that seems unlikely. It's also possible that maybe Aoyama already figured out who the traitor is. Like one of these other students I'm going to mention later, maybe he figured out that one of these students is the traitor, and that is what he's trying to imply to Deku, but he can't confirm it, so he's just watching the character from a distance. Because especially Aoyama at the beginning of the manga, he doesn't really make friends. He's an outcaster. He's an outcast. He eats lunch by himself in the classroom. He doesn't really get close to people. But there's a lot of things about this character that it's interesting. There's just a lot about this character that we don't know, and Hiroshi mentioned that this is one of his favorite characters, that he loves this character and he has a lot planned for this character. We have had that no inclination of what that is yet. It could be that he's the traitor and it's a big reveal, or maybe he reveals the traitor, or some sort of he's part of some secret organization that hasn't been revealed yet. I don't know. Or maybe he already knows about All for One. I mean, One for All and Deku's whole story, and he's been there to help observe that. We have no idea, but he has something planned for Aoyama. He's also the first student in Class 1A that is revealed, other than Deku. Like he was originally shown during the what is it the exam to get into into UA. So there's a lot with this character that is hinted at, but I think it's more hinting at some sort of other reveal in the story, that he's going to do something, and I think he's going to be the whistleblower. If it's not just flat out revealed at the end of the war arc, if it's revealed at school and another big incident, I think it's either going to be him or Shinso that reveal it, or Aoyama has been leaking information to Shinso for a while. Next is, of course, one of the more popular characters that people think is the traitor is Kagakurei, the Invisible Girl. Once again, quirk and personality parallels. She literally is invisible. Like, I feel like that's boring and lame in terms of story aspect and kind of lazy, but also it would make the most sense. She's invisible. That is very like cryptic. That's very much like, oh yeah, you're probably the traitor because your quirk literally implies that you would betray everyone. It's sneaky. She's a spy. That makes sense. But the main, and like, that's just general stuff. But also, it's revealed that her quirk is not invisibility. It's light refraction. Which for me, I doesn't understand why she's always invisible. Like, sure, like maybe her quirk just does not allow her to have a body and that she's invisible, that's how she gets the light refraction, but it seems kind of sus that maybe she's keeping herself invisible for a reason, or maybe she hasn't developed her quirk enough to control it. We don't know for sure. That could be a later development. I think that'd be so funny that this character who's been invisible the whole time all of a sudden becomes visible and she's like this gorgeous character. I think I can see that happening in My Hero. But the main reason why she's so suspicious is that during the president elections, there is one less vote than students in the class, and it's assumed that she didn't vote because we know that 3 people voted for Deku, Ida, and Ugaraka, and then we know that the 2 votes for Momo was Todoroki and Momo. So no one, and then we assume that everyone else voted for themselves, but no one voted for wow, sorry, word vomit. This is hard just talking about myself for so long. That Kagakurei, wow, Mo, where are you? I need your help. But Kagakurei doesn't get a vote, and that's strange because she would vote for herself 100%. So where is she? She's missing. No one really talks about it. And then during that time, somehow Kurogiri and Shigaraki get into UA and steal the plans for the USJ incident. Additionally, during the USJ incident, you're seeing a panel of Kurogiri like pretty much warping everyone to different locations of the USJ center. And pretty much the people that are grouped together are zapped together, moved to different areas. And so Higaraki says that she goes with Todoroki to a different area, but Todoroki immediately freezes the entire plane. If she was there, she would have been frozen, but she wasn't, which is kind of suspicious. And then she also later says that she watched Ojiro fighting and said he did a great job, but those are in 2 completely different sides of the USJ Center. So why would she lie about that? Those are 2 completely contradicting stories. Additionally, the only other character that is not shown is Aoyama, and what we don't know. And there's an interesting theory that maybe Aoyama saw Kagakurei tampering with the communication device, and that's why he kind of has been teaming up with Hagaraki. They have like a joint special move. He kind of seen becoming friends with her. Maybe he's following her around to see what's going on and keeping an eye on her. Maybe I would feel like Aoyama would be way more likely just to go tell a teacher that he saw this, but whatever. But yeah, Hagakure does a lot of like very suspicious things. Also, this is not necessarily a cause and effect thing, but this is more of a Easter egg that I feel like Hiroshi would have implanted into the story. She's the one that implies that they should go to the mall before the camp arc, where Deku has the interaction with Shigaraki, which was by a coincidence, that was not planned. But saying that she's implying that they should go to it, as well as the panel during the incident, while Shigaraki and Deku are trying, there's a full page panel, which in manga, if there's a full page panel, it's usually like a big impactful moment of just some of the girls looking at their shoes and trying on different shoes, and she's one of the girls there, and they're looking past her shoe, and it's pretty much something stating like the students are looking past her shoes, not sure what yet is to come, and maybe it's implying that Hagakure doesn't know what she has done. Like she doesn't realize that she doesn't know how bad the situation is about to get. It's a very interesting panel in the middle of an intense moment. Kind of seems out of nowhere. Could be a massive Easter egg. But the reason why I feel like it's not Hagakure, one, I feel like it would be boring from a story standpoint, but also during the camp arc, this is a scene that I think everyone's already seen. If you're listening to this, you've already seen this panel. There is a panel while everyone's sleeping the night before the Vanguard attacks at the camp, that all the students sleeping in their beds. Well, all the girls are accounted for sleeping in their beds, including Kagakure. Only 2 sleeping bags in the boys' room are empty, and of students that you can't account for. And sure, it's possible they went to the bathroom, but it's more like this is implying that someone has snuck out for some reason. And I think this is very interesting, and I will mention the 2 students that are missing later on when we talk about those students. So, those 2 students with Aoyama and Hagakure, I don't feel like are the traitors. But it is possible there's a lot of like very sus activity going on there, and they're very, very likely to be the traitor. I personally don't lean towards them because I think I want an impactful emotional story aspect. I want that gut punch. I want to feel heartbroken that this traitor's been revealed, that is no longer going to be a hero, is not going to be part of Class 1A, that betrays the class. I want to feel that pain. I want to feel that suffering, Eri crying, amazing. Night Eye dying, kind of sad, not really. But like, them, and then everything going on in the war arc right now, the massive amount emotional impact. One of the students that are one of the prize students that I'm about to list, one of the next 3, I feel like would be way more interesting as traitors. So first, Kirishima. I love Kirishima. He's one of my favorite characters, but he's kind of high up there in terms of why I think he's the traitor. Not as much as the other 4. There is not that much hard evidence of why he would be the traitor as the other 5 in this list, but I do think he has a very good chance of being the traitor. And his situation is a little different. So I think the emotional impact of Kirishima being the traitor would have a massive impact on Bakugo's character development. But due to the character development of Bakugo in the most recent arc, I don't think that's necessary anymore. I really do think now Kirishima is looking less and less likely to be the traitor. But Kirishima can empathize with pretty much anyone. The people he's drawn to in the class, Bakugo, the characters that are most villainous, like, he is drawn to them. He can empathize with the villains even during the internship arc that is shown. It's possible that before he joined UA, he was empathizing with villains and he wanted to give them a chance, and he doesn't realize that he is leaking information to someone that he shouldn't be leaking information to. Or something along those lines. Or he was manipulated at the beginning because he empathized with one of the villains, and he's realizing now that this is not what he wanted. For example, I really do think if he was the traitor, once Bakugo got kidnapped at the camp, I don't think he knew that was going to happen. I really think that he didn't realize anyone would be attacked. But during the camp arc, it's revealed that they're going after Bakugo, and he immediately is like, I'm stuck here. I can't help my friend. What's going on? This is all my fault. After Bakugo was kidnapped, he completely takes the blame for it. He's like, this is all my fault. That Bakugo got kidnapped. I have to do something. I was stuck in that building, not helping. He takes it very personally, more so than any other character, more so than Deku, which is saying a lot, because Deku takes everything as if he has a massive chip on his shoulder. And so, if you guys cannot tell, I'm not a huge fan of Deku, but yes, he's the main character, so we have to like him. But there is a lot of interesting things about Kirishima and the way he reacts to everything with Bakugo getting kidnapped. I think that if Kirishima was the traitor, after they kidnapped Bakugo and they broke that agreement, I think he cut ties with being the traitor. I think that if he still is quote unquote the traitor, it's going to be revealed at the end of the war arc that he was the one that leaked that information as a way to rock the heroes' um, focus and as a way for them to get away. And then it's going to cause a lot of other issues later on in the story for Kirishima. But I do think it's coming around to where he could be the villain. Also, I personally think that Kirishima is related to Gigantomachia. I think some sort of familial relationship there, or that he is aware of who Gigantomachia is. I also think Gigantomachia is one of those students that was kicked out of 1A. And I think Kirishima is aware of that because in one of the panels when the Big Three is talking about students getting kicked out, there's a brief panel of just Kirishima's face, and it's a look of sadness as well as Aizawa's. Unless he knew someone that was removed from from 1A, there's no reason for him to feel that way. It's possible that like Gigantomachia or someone else that he's related to is a villain, and that emotional empathy that he feels towards them allows him to leak information at the very beginning of the manga, and then he realizes that he doesn't agree with what they've been saying about hero society and that he actually wants to be a hero, and he chooses to turn away from that. With Kirishima, it could be very interesting if he was the villain. I feel like it's looking less and less likely for him to be the traitor, but it is a big possibility. Okay, so next, the last two characters I'm going to mention are personally the two characters I really think could be the traitor. First, I'm going to mention Kaminari, which Kaminari is an interesting case because he's been a really popular theory of him being the traitor for a very, very long time, until very recently, where people are starting to say, well, he's not the traitor because he's clearly being heroic and he's fighting the Metal Liberation Army and he's fighting them and the League of Villains, But I think from a story standpoint, Hiroshi would want Kaminari no longer to be suspicious. He would want it to be like, clearly, Kaminari is being a hero here, and he's trying to prove that he's a hero, but then he's going to reveal that actually he's the one that's betrayed everyone. Okay, so let's take it back first. Kaminari plays dumb, right? He has that ability, when he uses his electric abilities to his full potential, he fries out. I personally think if he's the traitor, he's been faking it. I think, because the only reason Kaminari is not an S tier student in class 1A is because of the frying out ability. He has the potential to be so much more powerful. He would be an extremely powerful electric quirk individual. I think he's been faking it if it's revealed, because he's also revealed to be very intellectual. Especially when it comes to literature, he makes references to some very crazy high level intellect, which doesn't make sense with him why he plays dumb. So maybe he's playing dumb so he's more likable and also less suspicious. Also, his original hero costume is super villainous, so that's kind of looking suspicious. He's one of the students that's missing from his sleeping bag. The other student is Kirishima, which is another reason why I think Kirishima might be the villain. I forgot to mention that. But Kaminari is the other student that's missing from his sleeping bag during the camp arc, which would really kind of pushes him up on that list. But I don't know, but the main reason why recently people are kind of like, oh, he's definitely the traitor is because when he was fighting the Metal Liberation Army and they ended, he did the L sign, the sign for the Liberation Army after he defeated them, which that's kind of like a very subtle hint. But also when he was kind of attacking some of the members of the Metal Liberation Army, he threw his disc out and he said he's going to try to avoid friendly fire. And he hit all of the Metal Liberation Army members except for the League of Villain members, which maybe his loyalty is actually to the League of Villains, and that's what he did. Like, he took out the Metal Liberation Army, proving that he's a hero and really kicking that suspicion off of him. But in reality, he helped the League of Villains get away. At the same time, Hawks was doing his betrayal against Twice and Dobby. So that is a whole very, very. After that was revealed, I really found it a lot more likely Kaminari is the villain. Because beforehand, just the messing from the bag, playing dumb, actually being powerful, also the ability to tamper with communication with his electric quirk. I didn't really feel it with Kaminari at that point, but after reading some of those panels, I really do think he has gone way up there on the most likely to be the traitor. Next, and finally, Ugaraka. I feel like Ugaraka could be the traitor, and I don't want her. I love Ugaraka, but I think from a story aspect, Ugaraka being the traitor would have such a huge impact on Deku's character. Also, Ugaraka is one of the only heroines, one of the few female characters, as well as one of the few main characters that has not had a massive story arc. Yeah, she had a little bit of a snippet in the sports festival, but that's more show that her motivation in life is money, which another reason why she could be the villain is that she's getting offered a lot of money to help her family. That's a very shallow reason. I don't think necessarily that the motivation of money is what's causing it. What's more likely is maybe her family's being blackmailed and that she's being threatened that her family will lose their business if she doesn't help give them information, and she thinks that just by slipping a little of information it'll be fine, it's not that bad, and that's why she's doing it. But honestly, the biggest reason I feel that she could be the traitor is because of the huge impact it has on Midoriya as a character. Imagine the most liked character in Class 1A becoming the traitor. I think there's a lot of parallels with Assassination Classroom. If you know, you know. There's a specific character in Assassination Classroom that at very last minute is revealed to be actually a villain, like has an alternative moment, and no one saw it coming. Like I had no idea this was coming when I watched Assassination Classroom. If Ugaraka is the traitor, it's going to be very similar to that. Also, she's been having a lot of like interactions with Toga, and a lot of people are saying, well, her interaction with Toga proves that she's not a villain or the traitor. I take it more as a Toga's questioning if she wants to be a villain, and I think it's kind of a foil to Ugaraka, who's also questioning what her loyalties are. I think it would be really interesting for this character that Ugaraka and Toga switch sides. I think if Ugaraka is revealed to be the traitor, she will flip sides and Toga will also switch sides. I think that could be a really interesting storyline. I also think that there's been a lot of mentions like there's a line where Ugaraka says that she needs to put away her emotions for now, and she has to hide those feelings. We imply it as her feelings for Deku. What if she's referring to her feelings of guilt for betraying Class 1A or being the traitor? I really don't think Ugaraka wants to be the traitor. I think if she's being the traitor, she's being blackmailed into it, or something's happening and she is being forced to be the traitor. I think it will have a huge emotional impact if she's the traitor. But once again, her interaction with Toga kind of like weakened that a little bit, unless Hiroshi is setting it up where the two switch. I don't know. I am more inclined out of all the characters on this list that Ugaraka is the traitor for the emotional aspect. I don't think she really is, but that's who I want it to be the most. If I had to choose one character on this list that probably is the traitor, I do think it's Kaminari. I think that's the most hints in terms of plot in the story that he's actually the traitor. And I think it would have a huge impact on Jiro's character arc, which I think could be interesting as well. It helped Jiro become more of the limelight. I think with Ugaraka, I would like it to be Ugaraka because I feel like she's so underutilized, as well as it would be interesting for Deku's character to see how he reacts to that. But yeah, so that's pretty much Maddie's breakdown of who the UA Traitor might be. If any of you guys agree, disagree, or whatever, just let me know. Reach out, talk to me. Also, I can't believe I talked for this long about who I thought the traitor could be. I didn't even go over all the theories that I have written down, and I'm not going to because there's a lot. But yeah, let me know if you guys enjoyed this type of episode setup. I'm thinking about doing more type of like fandom theories and breakdowns and putting it onto the Patreon. Like for example, is Death Parade and Death Note connected? Is there like a link there? I love that theory and I would love to talk about it. So if you guys would like to hear that, let me know. I'll put it up on Patreon. Could do a little couple episodes here and there. Have a couple other friends I would love to use on the podcast to talk with me about this kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I'm not gonna do a music rec this week because mostly because I didn't think of one, and you guys should just, I love Death Note the musical. You guys should listen to that. Also, I cannot remember social media information, so sorry. Please talk to us. You can listen to the past episodes that we talked about at the end of it. Next week we'll be talking about Sirius the Jaeger. Hopefully Mo and I will be able to meet up next week and talk about Sirius the Jaeger. We'll both be back in Bartlesville again, so I think that'll be doable. But yeah, let me know how you guys felt about this episode, and thank you so much for listening, and good luck binging. Bye bye.